Hey there, today we're going to be going over the 2013-2014 TMSCA General Math Test number 1. Let's do it. Alright, number 1, 678 plus 985. So instead of doing this like a normal addition problem, let's do this really quickly by doing the hundreds place. And that gets you 1,500. Adding the tens place. That gets you 150. And adding the ones place. And that gets you 13. So you're going to add these all up together, and you get 1,663, and that's your answer. Next up, 1,021 minus 956. So instead of solving this like a normal subtraction problem, similar to the last problem, you're going to do the hundreds place first, actually. But since there's no number in the hundreds place, you're going to take this 10 as the hundreds place. So we do 10 minus 9, and that gets you 1. And now we've got it in this place. So now we just have 21 minus 56. So instead what we're going to do is we're going to bring this 21 next right here, and that becomes 121, and then we're going to bring this 56 below that as a subtraction. So it becomes 121 minus 56, and that's just 65. And that's your answer. Number 3, 12.4 times 1.02. So this might seem pretty tricky at first, but it's actually really simple. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this 1.02 and break it up into 1 and 0.02. So how this is going to happen is we're going to take this 1, right? And we're going to multiply this by 12.4. And we're going to take this 0.02 and multiply it by 12.4. Now once we do this, we could just do 12.4 plus 0.02 times 12.4, which is nothing but 2 times 12.4, then move it back 2 decimal places. So that's 0.248. And when you add these two up, you get 12.648. And that's your answer. Okay, 16.5 divided by 5.5. So all we have to do is convert this into improper fractions. We do this by multiply the denominator times the whole number, and that gets you 32 for the first one. And then you're going to add the numerator. So we get 33, and then we just add back the denominator. So 33 over 2. And if you use the same process for 5.5, you get 11 over 2. Now you just divide these. Since the 2 and 2 cancel out, it's just 33 divided by 11, and that gets you 3, and that's your answer. Alright, number 5, 99 equals what in Roman numerals? So first you need to know your Roman numerals. So I equals 1, V equals 5, X equals 10, L equals 50, C equals 100, and D equals 500, and lastly M equals 1000. But there's one more rule you need to know, and that's about 4s and 9s. So with a 4, you don't write that as 1, 2, 3, 4. You would write that as 1 before the next number. So that's IV, because it's 1 before a 5. Same thing with a 9. You wouldn't write it as VIIII. You would write it as 1 before the next number. So that's IX. And the same thing goes on if you go up in scale. So a 4D would be XL, because it's 10 before a 50. And a 9D would be XC, because it's 10 before 100. Now that you know that, let's move on to our problem. So 99. So 99 is nothing but 9 tens and 9 ones. So 9 tens is equal to 90, and 9 ones is equal to 9. 90 is equal to XC, and 9 is equal to IX. So now we just combine these, and that's XC, IX, and that's your answer. Evaluate AB divided by BC. If A equals -2, B equals 3, C equals 4, and D equals -12. So first off, D is completely irrelevant. And second thing, you might be tempted to write this as AB divided by BC. But that's not how you do this. You actually write this as A times B over B times C, because the order of operations states that you cannot do this if that's stated like AB divided by BC. This does not equal this. This is this. So now that we know that, let's substitute our actual numbers. So that's -2 times 3 over 3 times 4. This cancels out, becomes 1. We don't need 1 in multiplication, so it's just -2 times 4, which is -8, and that's our answer. So number 7, how much distinct prime factors does the number of 424 have? So first we need to divide this. So we can divide this as 2 and 212. And we can divide this by 2 and 106. And we can divide this into 2 and 53. And since 53 is a prime number and 2 is a prime number, these are only two prime numbers, which means it only has 2 prime factors. So that's it. Number 8, Stephen bought 6 movie tickets for $75. What is the unit price per ticket? So you could do this by dividing 75 by 6, but the much easier way is knowing your multiples of 6. So we know that 6 times 12 equals 72. So we know that our base price is going to be 12. And then we have 3 left over because 75 minus 72 equals 3. So we can write this as a fraction of 3 over 6, which is nothing but 0.5. So now we add 12 and 0.5 together, and we get 12.5. And that's our answer. Number 9. Number 9 is just a math theory problem. Blank is a way to write all real numbers in the form of a times 10 to the power of b, where 1 is less than or equal to a, and a is less than 10, and b is an integer. So this is called scientific notation. It's a way of compressing really big numbers or enlarging really small numbers to make it so that it's very common to comprehend. Number 10. A rectangle has a length of 8 centimeters and a width of 6 centimeters. If each side of the rectangle is doubled, what is the perimeter of the new rectangle? So we know that the formula for perimeter is nothing but 2w and 2l. So in this case, it's 16 plus 12, and that equals 28. And the thing about perimeter is, if you double the side lengths, you're just doubling the perimeter. So all you're doing is just multiplying this by 2, which is 56, and that's our answer. Number 11. How many lines of symmetry does an isosceles right triangle have? So you can either memorize these or you can draw them out. I prefer to draw them out, but here you go. This is how you draw it out. So first, you draw out the isosceles right triangle. And since it's isosceles right triangle, the two isosceles sides will meet at the right angle. Next, you just need to know that if they meet at the right angle and there's one other common side, there's only one way you can divide it and it would be symmetrical, which means there's only one line of symmetry. So that's your answer. Number 12. If angle A is equal to 43 degrees, what is the measure of the complement of angle A? So two complementary angles add up to 90 degrees. So to figure out what the complement is, you would have to subtract 43 from 90. And the answer is 47. Now, if they had given supplementary, that means 180. So you would have to subtract 180 minus 43, and that would get you 137. But in this case, they're asking for complementary, so 47 is your answer. 13. Solve for n. 3n minus 8 equals negative 26. So this is just your standard equation. So all you have to do is add 8 to both sides of the equation. And that gets you 3n is equal to negative 18. And that becomes n is equal to negative 6. And that's your answer. 14. If f of x is equal to 3x plus 4, find f of negative 6. So f of x equals 3x plus 4. So we need to find f of negative 6. So all we're doing is we're putting this negative 6 in where x is. So our new equation becomes 3 times negative 6 plus 4. And that's just negative 18 plus 4, which comes out to negative 14. And that's your answer. 15. 5x plus 4 is an example of a blank binomial. So 5x plus 4. So the way you solve this is another math theory problem. So you need to know the power of this right here. So the answer choices are A, quadratic, that means to the power of 2. It's not to the power of 2, so it's not that. B, cubic, it's not to the power of 3, so it's not that. C, tetric, it's not to the power of 4, so it's not that. Pentic, it's not to the power of 5, so it's not that. And linear, that would be to the power of 1. Since there is no written power here, that means it's automatically to the power of 1, which means the answer is E, linear. 16. If pi equals 3, find the measure of the circumference of the circle below. So all you have to do is the formula 2 pi r to get you your circumference. So you just multiply each of these terms. So pi is 3, you already have your 2, and your radius is given, and that's 9. So you just multiply these, and you get 54, and that's your answer. 17. 3 divided by 16 equals what in decimals? So you just do your standard division here. So 16 doesn't go into 3, so you'd have to add a decimal. Then how much times does 16 go into 30? It goes in once. So you subtract 16, you get 14. Now you bring down another 0. How much times does 16 go into 140? It goes in 8 times, and that becomes 128. And this becomes 12. You bring down another 0. This becomes, how much times does 16 go into 120? That's 7. Now you subtract 112, because 60 times 7 is 112. That gets you 8. And now you bring down your last 0. Now that gets you 80. And since 16 goes into 80 5 times, you just write a 5 up here, and your answer is 0.1875. 18. What is 45% of 90? So to figure this out, you need to know what 50% is. And then you need to know what 5% is. And then you subtract the 5% from 50%. So 50% of 90 is just 90 divided by 2, and that equals 45. And then to figure out what 5% is, you just do this divided by 10, which is 4.5. Now you subtract, and you get 40.5. And that's your answer. Number 19, evaluate the absolute value of a times b, and then subtract c. If a equals -5, b equals 7, and c equals 9. So first let's do a times b. A times b is -5 times 7, which equals -35. But it's in the absolute value, so it becomes 35. And then you just subtract -9. But since you're subtracting a negative number, you're just actually adding. So it's 35 plus 9, and you get 44. And that's your answer. Number 20. Find the area of a triangle that has a base of 14 inches and a height of 23 inches. So when they give you a base and a height, all you have to do to find the area of a triangle is multiply the base and the height. So 14 times 23, that's 322. And then you just divide this by 2, and that's 161. And that's your answer. Number 21. Which figure will be in the 44th position of the pattern? This is really simple. All you need to do is figure out the 4th position of the pattern. And whatever that is, it's most likely going to be your position in the 44th place. So that's the sun, and that's your answer. Number 22. Find the length of the hypotenuse of the triangle below to the nearest integral value. So to do this, all you have to do is the Pythagorean theorem, which is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So in this case, they're given a and b, which is 8 and 15. So now we just square each of these, and that becomes 64 plus 225. That equals 289, and you just square root this because it's a c squared. We need c. So square root of 289 is 17, and that's your answer. Number 23, find the LCM of the numbers 12 and 54. So this is really simple. So they've given LCM. That's what we need to find. So we have 12 and 54. To figure out LCM, we need to know the GCF. And in this case, the GCF is 6. Now all we're going to do is we're going to divide one of these numbers by 6. So let's take 12, divide this by 6, and you get 2. And then we're going to multiply whatever the product is. So in this case, 2. The 2 times this number, which is 54. And you get 108. And that's your answer. Number 24. What is the value of the upper quartile for the box and whisker plot below? So first you need to know the key components of a box and whisker plot. So these tails on the end, those are called your whiskers. So whichever side is shorter, that's the way the data is leaning in the box and whisker plot. Then you have your box. The first line in the box is called your lower quartile. Then the second line in the middle is called your median. And then the third line is your upper quartile, which we're looking for here. And the answer to that is 56. Number 25. 76 millimeters plus 1 meter equals how many centimeters? So we need to know the rates of conversion. So 1 centimeter is equal to 10 millimeters, which means 76 millimeters is 7.6 centimeters. And then 1 meter is nothing but 100 centimeters, so that's just 100. And then we just add these. So that gets us 107.6 centimeters. And that's our answer. Number 26. 102 base 5 equals what base 10? So to solve this, we have to convert the base 5 number to a base 10. So our number given is 102. So we write this a bit spread out. So 1, 0, and 2. And now we're going to multiply each of these by powers of 5 because it's to the base of 5. So our powers of 5 are 1, 5, 25, 125. And it keeps going on, but we only need the first 3 because we only have 3 numbers. So let's solve. Now we multiply the 2 by the 1. We multiply the 5 and the 0. And we multiply the 25 and the 1. Now we just add up the product of all of these multiplication equations. So 2 times 1 is 2, 0 times 5 is 0, and 1 times 25 is 25. And now we just add this up, and we get 27, and that's your answer. 27. Which equation below is written in slope-intercept form? So your slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. And now that you know that, let's look at our answer choices. 3x minus 5y equals 1. That is not it. That's written in standard form. B. Y minus 3 equals 2 times x plus 1. That is not it. That's written in point slope form. C. Y plus 3 equals 3x. That is not it. D. Y equals x minus 1. That is possible because it's written in the y equals mxb format. Because if you look at this, y equals mxb and y equals x minus 1. Your minus 1 is just your b, and your x is just your mx value. So that is a possibility. Let's look at number 5 just to be sure. E. X equals 1/2 y plus 3. That is not it because in the slope-intercept form, the y has to be by itself. So your answer is D. Y equals x minus 1. Number 28, ABCDE, this symbol, CDEFG, this symbol, ABDE, HIJK contains a set with how many elements? So to solve, we need to know what these symbols mean. So this symbol means you're taking everything from two sets. So if you're given A, B, C, D, E, and C, D, E, F, G, you're taking A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, because that's everything. And you wouldn't repeat the C, D, E because that's only something that appears once. You don't need it to overlap. Next up, this symbol. This symbol means you're only taking everything common. So now let's look at this set, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and the set given, A, B, D, E, H, I, J, K. If we look at this, A is common, B is common, D is common, E is common. So there's only 4 common elements, and that's your answer. 29. Each letter of the word Mathmania is written on a tile and placed inside of a bag. What is the probability you reach into the bag and choose a vowel? Answers given in the form of a ratio. Alright, so let's write out our word Math. Mania. Alright, so let's count our vowels. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's a total of 9 letters, which means 4 out of 9 are vowels. So we have to write this in a ratio form. So all you have to do is just write this as 4 to 9, and that's your answer. 30. What is the value of the product of the median and mode of the set of numbers 11, 23, 23, 42, 7, and 4? Alright, so first let's write out our set in the terms of least to greatest. So that's 4, 7, 11, 23, 23, and 42. Alright, now that we know that, let's find out what our median is. So our median is between the two middle numbers because this is an even amount of numbers. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So because of that, it's the number between the third and fourth. Since there's no number here, we have to use the formula of mean. And that is adding the two numbers, so 11 plus 23, and then that's 34. And now you just have to divide this by 2, and that gets you 17. So that's your answer for your median. Now we need to know our mode. Mode is the number that repeats the most times in a set. In this case, it's 23. So now that we know that, our answer is just 17. Now that we know that, our answer is just 17 times 23. And that is 391. And that's your answer. 31. Which of the following points is not a solution to the linear equality graph below? So how we solve this is, in the gray shaded area, we have to plot all the points. And if one point isn't in the gray shaded area, that's the answer, because that's not a solution to the linear equality. So in this case, 0, 0, otherwise known as the origin, is in the gray area, so it's not that. Negative 1, comma 3, that is in the gray area, so it's not that. Negative 4, negative 3, that's in the gray area, so it's not that. And D, 3, negative 1, that is not in the gray area, so it's that. However, let's look at E, just to make sure. 0, negative 3. So that's on the line. However, this is the thing. When the line is solid and there's no dashes, that means whatever is on the line counts in this gray area. But if it's dashes, whatever is on the line does not count. So in this case, since it's solid, this counts in the gray area, which means D is your answer. Number 32. What is the maximum number of diagonals that can be drawn from one vertex of a regular hexagon? So this is actually really simple. It's just the formula n minus 3. So if given a hexagon, it has 6 sides. So 6 minus 3, and that equals 3, and that's your answer. Now, if they had given you what's the total number of diagonals, it's n times n minus 3 divided by 2. So in this case, hexagon, right? So it would be 6 times 3, which is 18, divided by 2, and that gets you 9. So 9 is the total amount of diagonals. But 3 is your answer. 33. Maria has a box that measures 5 inches high, 8 inches long, and 6 inches wide. She plans to fill it half full with sand for a school project. How many cubic inches of sand will Maria need? So to solve this, we just have to do the volume, which is length times width times height, and then divide it by 2. So in this case, it's really simple because 5 times 8 is 40, and 40 times 6 is 240, and we just divide that by 2, and we get 120, and that's your answer. 34. Simplify 4n plus 6m minus 3n minus negative 8m minus 6m minus m plus negative 3n minus 6n. So to solve this, we have to combine the like terms. So n and m are our like terms in this. So let's solve for n's first. 4n minus 3n is n. N minus 3n is just negative 2n. And negative 2n minus 6n is negative 8n. Alright, now that we know what our n is, let's solve for our m. 6m minus negative 8m, which is just plus 8m, is 14m. 14m minus 6m is 8m. 8m minus m is 7m. So it comes out to 7m and negative 8n. And that's your answer. Number 35. What is the range of the following relation? So the range is just your set of y values. So in this case, it's just the second number in each little parentheses. So that's 5, 0, and 3. And that's your answer. 36. If 1 over 1 times 2 plus 1 over 2 times 3 plus 1 over 4a equals 3/4, then find the value of a. Alright, let's do this. So let's simplify the denominator first. So 1 over 1 times 2 is just 1/2. 1 over 2 times 3 is just 1/6. 1 over 4a is as well 1 over 4a. And then we have 3/4. And these three add up to 3/4. So now that we know this, let's find it under one common denominator. So one common denominator we can use is 12. So if we convert all these to the common denominator of 12, it becomes 6/12 plus 2/12 plus 1 over 4a equals 9/12. So we know that this is just 8/12. And we know that this is just 1 over 4a. And that equals 9/12. So this and this make it so that 1 over 4a is equal to 1/12. Because if you bring this 8/12 over here, it becomes a subtraction. And then it just becomes 1/12. So now 1 over 4a equals 1/12, which means a equals 3. And that's your answer. 37. The graph of a direct variation equation will always pass through the blank. This is easy. When given a graph, the middle point right here is called the origin, and a direct variation equation will always pass through this middle point, or also known as the origin, and that's your answer. Number 38. In how many different ways can 6 distinct books be arranged on a shelf? This is very simple. In a problem like this, when it's asking you to sort a number of things, all you have to do is n factorial. So a factorial is you're multiplying a certain number times every number before it. So in this example, 6 distinct books, so 6 factorial. That is just 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. And your answer is 720, because this all equates to 720. 39. The geometric mean of 3 numbers, a, b, and c, can be found by the cube root of abc. What is the geometric mean of the numbers 4, 8, and 16? So they've already given us the formula, so this is actually very simple. We just have to multiply 4 times 8 times 16. So 4 times 8 is 32, and 32 times 16 is 512. And the cube root of 512 is nothing but 8. And that's your answer. Number 40. What is the equation of the axis of symmetry for the graph of the quadratic equation? So in a quadratic equation, the standard form is ax squared plus bx plus c. So let's look at our problem. We have 2x squared minus 16x plus 1. And now we need to take this and put it into an axis of symmetry formula. The formula for axis of symmetry is negative b over 2a. So our b value here is negative 16. So we can start off by writing negative of negative 16 over 2 times our a value, which is 2. So 2 times 2. So that's just 16 over 4, which is 4. And that's your answer. However, when writing axis of symmetry, you always want to write it as x equals 4. 41. 4 consecutive positive integers sum to 198. What is the value of the smallest integer? So to solve this, we have to create an equation. So we know that 4 consecutive integers sum to 198. So let's write this. Well, now we need to convert the 4 consecutive integers into an equation. And we can write this by x plus 1 plus x plus 2 plus x plus 3. And we can keep x as our smallest number. Now that we know that, let's solve this equation. So this all simplifies to 4x plus 6 equals 198. And if we subtract the 6 from both sides, we get 4x equals 192. Now we just divide out the 4, and we get x equals 48. And that's your answer. 42. Find the slope of the line that passes through the points 9, negative 4, and 17, 4. So the formula for this is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So let's look at our problem. So our y2 is 4, and our y1 is negative 4. So 4 minus negative 4 over x2, which is 17 minus 9. This all equates to 8 over 8, and that's just 1. So that's your answer. 43. What is the formula to find the area of any regular polygon if A equals apothem, N equals side length, P equals perimeter, H equals height, and B equals base? To find the formula of any regular polygon with your apothem, it's just A times your perimeter, and that's apothem times perimeter, divided by 2. So the answer is AP over 2. 44. Simplify the root of 480. So to solve this, we have to break this down into other roots. So how we can do this is the factors. So we know that 16 times 30 equals 480. So if we split this into the root of 16 times 30, now this is more simplified. And since 16 is the square of 4, we can bring the 16 out and rewrite this as 4 root 30. And since 30 can't have a square root, nor can be simplified further to have another square root, this is our answer. Number 45. Simplify 64 to the power of 2/3. When doing a problem where you're putting a number to the power of a fraction, to solve, what you have to do is you have to write this in a way that it's easier to understand. So when you have given a fraction as the power, the right way to write this is the cube root of 64 squared. However, this can also be written as the cube root of 64 squared. You might think it doesn't make a big difference, but it does, because this is just 4, and now you can just square this, and that gets you 16, and that's your answer. Number 46, factor x squared plus 2x minus 15. Alright, to solve this, what we need to do is we need to do our magic cross. So we need to find out the numbers that go in all 4 sections. So the number that goes here in the top is the a value times the c value. Since the a value is just 1 here, it's just the c value by itself, which is negative 15. And then the number that goes here is just the b value, which is 2. So now we need to find two numbers that multiply to negative 15 but add to 2. So our two numbers are 5 and negative 3. Now we can rewrite our original equation as x squared plus 5x minus 3x minus 15. Now we can break this into 2 parts and factor out each part. So we factor out the greatest common factor, and in this case it's x. So x, and then we leave in another x and a 5. And then on this side, we factor out the negative 3. So negative 3, and then x plus 5. And you should notice, if you do this right, that these two numbers in the parentheses are the same. And now we have to make a second parentheses with these two numbers, x and negative 3. So our factors are x minus 3 and x plus 5. And that's our answer. 47. If this matrix equals 7, 5, negative 9, negative 2, then A is equal to what value? Alright, so this is about positions. So in one box, you have a 1, a 2, a 3, and a 4. You have 4 values, right? So we're looking at A, which is the third value. So in each box, whatever the third value is, that creates one equation. So for example, with the A, you have A minus 3, because there's a negative sign between the two boxes. So A minus 3 is equal to negative 9. And now we can just solve this like a regular equation. So we add 3 to both sides, and then becomes A equals negative 6, and that's your answer. 48. If I equals the square root of negative 1, what is the value of 3i squared? So in this situation, you have to substitute the square root of negative 1 in for I. So this would become 3 times the square root of negative 1 squared. And since the square and the square root cancel out, it just becomes 3 times negative 1, which equals negative 3. And that's your answer. 49. The solution to the system 3x plus 4y equals 10 and x minus y equals 1 has coordinates a comma b. What is the value of b to the power of 3 times a? So to solve this, we have to solve for a comma b. And to do that, we have to solve our system. So we're going to use the method of substitution. So x minus y equals 1. And if we add y to both sides of the equation, it becomes x equals y plus 1. And now we can substitute this x value in our original equation. So 3 times y plus 1 plus 4y equals 10. This just simplifies to 3y plus 3 plus 4y equals 10. And then you can add this up and it becomes 7y plus 3 equals 10. And then it becomes 7y equals 7, which means y equals 1. And no matter what power you put 1 to, it'll always be 1, so 1 is your answer. However, if it wasn't 1 and you needed to solve for your a value, what you would do is you would substitute your y value into this equation right here, x minus y equals 1, and then you would do x minus 1 equals 1, and then you would figure out that your x value is 2. But in this case, you just need to know that it's 1, and that's your answer. 50. How many regions in a plane are determined by 3 lines? No 2 are parallel and no 3 are concurrent. So to solve this problem, there's 2 formulas. You have the nth triangular number plus 1. So your triangular numbers are your numbers when put into a triangle shape that make a perfect triangle. So 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it keeps going on. Or you could use n times n plus 1 divided by 2 plus 1. So this is just your formula for your triangular number. I prefer to use this because it's easier to remember. Anyways, let's solve. So we've given 3 lines. So that's 3 times 3 plus 1, which is 4, divided by 2 plus 1. So this simplifies to 12 over 2 plus 1, which is just 6 plus 1, which is 7. So this equals 7. And that's your answer. However, let's say they had given how many regions in a plane are determined by 3 lines, no 2 are parallel, and 3 are concurrent. What you would do is you would do this exact same process just without the plus 1. But since they're asking for no 3 are concurrent, 7 is your answer. Alright, that's it. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, make sure to show your support. These videos take a lot of effort to make and I would really appreciate it.